We are a way for the cosmos to know itself. So says Neil deGrasse Tyson. A few years ago, Tyson, the astrophysicist and director of the Hayden Planetarium in New York, one of my favorite places growing up, hosted a revival of the series Cosmos. Suzanne and I watched it together. The above quoted line was in the very first episode. I don't know who wrote it, but there was a lot of new thought in the script, and they think it's just science. Tyson went through the long history of the cosmos, from the Big Bang to the present day. It's amazing how small a part of that time we've been around. Some years ago, I read a book entitled The Self-Aware Universe, How Consciousness Creates the Material World by Dr. Amit Goswami, one of the scientists featured in What the Bleep Do We Know. Dr. Goswami says something similar to the Tyson quote from the episode I cited above. The universe is self-aware through us. Perhaps this is some small part of what Thomas Troward meant when he said, I am the person that thou art, and thou art the person that I am. We are the eyes, ears, and senses of the infinite. It deliberately, consciously, intentionally chose to express as you and me, as each of us, as that which came before and that which comes after. Ernest Holmes says as much in his statement, What I Believe, which was adopted by religious science as its statement of belief, what we believe. We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. Goswami defines consciousness as the ground of being, original, self-contained, and constitutive of all things, that manifests as the subject that chooses and experiences what it chooses, as it self-reflectively collapses the quantum wave function in the presence of brain-mind awareness. The idea that consciousness is original, self-contained, and constitutive of all things, that it manifests as the subject that chooses and experiences what it chooses, will be quite familiar to New Thoughters. This is quintessential New Thought philosophy. An experiment in which people had established a mental bond, were locked in metal boxes, and one was stimulated to test his response, showed that the other partner responded in essentially the same way, showing that these quantum properties apply also to macro objects, such as people. According to quantum theory, a particle vibrating due to your sound when you speak can affect a molecule inside a star at the edge of the universe instantly. That's how powerful our consciousness, our thoughts, and our words are. Around the time of the episode that I referenced aired, the congregation at our center was given the suggestion to surrender your idea of who you think you are to the possibility of who you really are. So who are you really? Dr. Tyson, Dr. Goswami, Dr. Holmes, and others give us a suggestion of who we really are. We know that our self-awareness, our awareness, defines the universe. Not the universe, it's way too big for that, but it defines ours. How are you defining your universe? Step back and check it out. Things are essentially wavicles in a universe of consciousness, in a quantum universe, in metaphysics. Things are essentially wavicles, potentially at least in several places at once, achieving locality only when observed, only when we focus on them do they show up in a specific place called here. It's our consciousness that collapses the wave. The essential principle is that there's an observer consciousness that is the overriding force in the world, that we all live in that consciousness, and that it reveals itself as and through each of us. It is only when it acts as us that the quantum wave of all things collapses, and it settles into an objective reality, all other possibilities being discarded in this experience. The well-known writer, cleric, and philosopher Bishop Berkeley wrote a pair of limericks to this point. There was a young man who said God must think it exceedingly odd to find that this tree continues to be when there's no one about in the quad. Dear sir, your astonishment's odd. I am always about in the quad. And that's why this tree will continue to be, since observed by yours faithfully, God. God is everywhere. God is omnipresent. There is no spot where God is not, as we often say in New Thought. Yet when we go into treatment, prayer, and focus on a specific aspect or quality of God, it shows up right here. The non-local becomes local, as the scientists say. The only difference being that it's also simultaneously local to everyone else and in different ways. Ultimately, of course, the observer and the observed are the same thing. But the universe is set up in such a way as to be able to observe itself. Were it not set up in this way, it could never collapse the wave of potential, and nothing would then occur, according to Dr. Goswami. There would be no choices made. Thus, there would be no resulting actions. The continued unfolding of the blessings of God requires an observation and an observed to interact and get the show on the road. And so we step into that vastness, into that possibility, into that self-knowingness of the cosmos. So what kind of awareness are you expressing? We are always at choice. And the choices we make determine what happens in our lives. It's not what we want, but what we choose. Our choices are revealed by our expectations. When our choices don't work for us anymore, in the words of A Course in Miracles, we simply choose once again. As we make new choices, new circumstances follow. The formless shows up in new forms. The non-local takes on new locality. The process of creation is a quantum event continually unfolding as and through you. Will you choose to direct it and make your life what you desire it to be?